Greetings, everyone. This is Rock and Roll Spot Connection with the Weekly Comic Book Roundup. We are most of the way through the roundup, having made it through all of this week's Marvel books, at least the ones I picked up. And now it's time to move on to Marvel's Distinguished Competition and their current Night Terrors event. To kick things off, we've got Night Terrors number 2. Where we left off, after briefly having a peek inside of Insomnia's mind, Deadman, now possessing the body of Batman, opted to use some Lazarus resin to resurrect Wesley Dodds, the Golden Age Sandman. So we open with a somewhat of a recap from Boston in the form of a late night talk show called Dead Air with Boston Brand. It's kind of amusing, and yeah, but Dodds picks up on the idea that Boston is not Batman. Batman is actually, and Boston is more surprised that Sandman knows Batman. But he asks about the Nightmare Stone, in part because while briefly linked to Insomnia's mind, he saw images of the Golden Age Sandman. Apparently there was a case that Dodds was working on early in his days as a superhero. A cult. Explained. They claim to worship some god of nightmares. At first, this one was like all cults, really about sex and money. But then it took a nasty turn into the horrific. They were there was an attempt to form a ritual that would create the Nightmare Stone, but Dodds showed up, prevented the ritual. Turns out that the sacrifice was actually the leader of the cult. However, his sacrifice wasn't enough, and while Dodds got a glimpse of the Nightmare Stone, it didn't fully materialize in reality. And so, Sandman figures the best bet is probably, or Deadman figures probably the best bet is to track down the any surviving members of the cult and or their families. One of them is trapped in his dreams and is having a dream, and Nightmare barges in and tries to find the Nightmare Stone, shoving money down the man's throat in his dream. However, there's a distress call from Terrific, so Deadman and Sandman go to investigate with Red Tornado very smartly asking, how is Batman still awake? Though Deadman points out that it's not Batman, it's Deadman. But thankfully, robots don't need to sleep, so they've been doing what they can to mitigate the chaos of everything. Mr. Terrific is currently asleep and in a what appears to be a stasis chamber of sorts, dealing with his own nightmares. But apparently, the time the Deadman spent in Insomnia means he can still see Insomnia's nightmares, including a flashback to Arkham Tower, and Insomnia meeting John D. Well, apparently on the day that the Justice League came back during, basically the day after Dark Crisis ended. Apparently D was quite mad about the whole thing, and Deadman is once again expelled from Nightmare's subconscious. Lights go out in the Triffitek as the Sleepless Knights attack. One of them ends up dismantling, it would seem, Red Tornado. Though Red Tornado is at least able to state that Deadman should stay at Arkham Tower, and finishes by stating that it's way past Boston's bedtime, and that is where the issue ends. Okay, interesting. I gotta say, bringing back Wesley Dawes is a nice touch. The Golden Age Sandman's whole shtick was that he was a detective who occasionally had prophetic dreams. He also carried out a gas gun, which, as I recall, had sleeping gas in it, right? A knockout agent of some type. While he was a founding member of the JSA, and there is a legacy character in the JSA, carrying on Sandman's legacy, or at least there was. Likely one of the more prominent comics to feature Wesley Dawes in recent-ish years, as in the last few decades, was Sandman Mystery Theater, a Vertigo book which followed the Golden Age Sandman through his career as a costume crime fighter in the 40s. Briefly, also briefly had Dodds interacting momentarily with Dream. Anyways, so moving on though to our next book, we've got Night Terror's Angel Breaker #1. Angel Breaker was a character introduced during last year's Batman Deathstroke Incorporated crossover Shadow War. She is now a high-ranking member of the League of Shadows. There have been hints that she has, as to the various, she's trained under some of the finest warriors in the DC universe, though. So, beginning in Izmir, Turkey, Angel Breaker prevents Raptor, a former member of the League of Shadows, from attacking or from mugging a couple. Apparently, they're going out. She needs basically just needs some muscle. Going after the cult of Cobra for a device called the Asclepius, the Dream Snake, which harnesses the power of the Dreamstone and its user, John D. But it can access any mind of the Dreamscape. Any thought, any memory, any skill. So her idea is access the minds of the world's greatest warriors who haven't trained her and learn their techniques. And so, at the Erie Blinds Factory in Erie County, Ohio, a quartet of young Cobra initiates are kind of just exploring the base, or the Cobra facility within, though the four adepts are sent back to their rooms. Angel Breaker and Raptor arrive, deal with Cobra cultists, and make their way in, while the faculty member attempts to, or is looking at the dream snake. As Angel Breaker and Raptor enter, that's around the time that Insomnia puts everyone to sleep. And the containment field around the dream snake is released. And a ghost darkly stabs the woman in charge of this facility. Turns out also one of the adepts is a Lady Eve. That's the name of the woman assigned to them. That met. Men on this person in question, and one of them has been observing her. Apparently, she's supposed to guard the dream snake, but she's been using it herself, turning out the containment field and abusing the dreams it contains like a drug. One of the kids is grabbed by a specter that especially has an effect on Angel Breaker. Apparently, Angel Breaker is supposed to destroy some unknown evil, but she's now starting to wonder, what if it's an evil she created? And also begins to think that perhaps this creature, this entity that they're all seeing, may be related to a old Coda tale she was told by when training under Zealot. That is where the issue ends. One point that I didn't bring up is the fact that apparently Angel Breaker tried to train under Wonder Woman, but Wonder Woman, she thought that Angel Breaker was too morally flexible. Good start, though. This could be a 2-issue miniseries, but yeah. Moving on, though, to our next book, we've got Night Terror's Detective Comics, #1. So, recently, Detective Comics, former Police Commissioner James Gordon has basically taken on a ward, young boy called Sorrow. He appears to have a greater awareness than he likely should. So, Gordon's visiting the grave of his son. Gets a text from Barbara, and honestly, it's also snowing in July in Gotham, and he kind of wants to fall apart. But Barbara texts him, and well. But Sorrow is seeing things that are assumed to, having visions of what's to happen. Though, with him being weird already, it doesn't seem to have much of an effect on him, to the point of Gordon's like, okay. But Sorrow leaves the apartment the two of them share, and Gordon follows, finding a group that called there's a cult called the Good People of Gotham. They are trying to entreat fifth dimensional gods to make offerings and requests. One wants the physical power to save Gotham, one wants the financial power to save Gotham, and one wants the knowledge of whether or not Gotham can be saved. One begins to turn as Sorrow sees this and is seemingly blasted into nothing but bone by the one who wanted physical power. Gordon is knocked to the ground, heads back out in the city, but he notices that he punches a wall that his hand seemed to crack, like it was made of glass. The one who asked for physical power is taking on a form similar to that of Batman. Gordon is having to deal with this Batman killing small-time dealers, saying it reminds him of when he's somewhat reminded of I think he says he's reminded of his son's brief attempt at being Batman using the robo-suit. This Batman states that while Gordon tried to save the city, both as Commissioner and as Batman, but he didn't go far enough. And Gordon, while giving chase, collapses. More parts of his body cracking. And the fifth dimensional gods look on. Noting that Gordon is not one of the ones who sought a gift. But he was present. Fourth dimensional linearity. So confusing. But one clue that Gordon picked up was the Nightmare Batman said a name, Angelica. It rings a bell for Gordon from one of the various functions he attended as commissioner. And Angelica Vanderbar, they met once. He's sure she wouldn't remember. Apparently, though, she talked at length about how underfunded and ineffective the Gotham police force was. Gordon nodded along, knowing that the IRS had tried to nail her 3 times for tax evasion. Gordon makes his way into Vanderbar's penthouse. There's glass all over the floor, and she's spitting up chunks of glass until she basically vomits them out, and he tries to save her. And apparently, one of the fifth dimensional gods notes that Gordon is starting to amuse them, a little at least. And that is where the issue ends. Interesting. That is one thing I will give this crossover. The tie-ins and the main story itself have all been interesting so far. Moving on to our next book, we've got Night Terror's Harley Quinn, #1. Keep in mind, Harley was at Arkham Tower when insomnia basically put everyone to sleep. So in her nightmare, she's back at Arkham. Dr. Harley and Quinzel. Oh, and she forgot to put on pants. And for shoes, it's just apparently slippers. She ends up dealing with a room full of jokers and just smashes the hell out of them, becoming the Harley we know and love. Briefly runs into Ivy as well, and the Anti-Monitor tears Ivy in half in front of Harley. Though Harley's kind of just like, okay, is this supposed to be like some horrible dream I've never had? Because yeah, these are nightmares. These are nightmares I've had previously. Dealt with them. Facing Doomsday, facing Brainiac, fighting the League, including Cyborg Superman. But she ends up in a debug room with access to the Multiversity Guidebook. And starts trying to deal with her problems by going through it, and, well, she ends up kind of focusing more on aesthetics than what could actually help her. What could actually help. Initially, ending up on a pirate Earth, and being stopped by the Justice Fleet. Then a Vampire Earth, where she has to deal with the Blood League, taking out most of the. But it seems that all this is starting to make her integral to the Justice League, and she kind of is like, she doesn't want to do this. She wants to be normal. She wants to be a teacher with an apartment and a girlfriend. But her actions are seemingly informing the multiverse at large. And she realizes her nightmare is being in the Justice League. Then we've got a backup story. Harley is being interrogated and or giving a video statement. Apparently, she met a future version of herself. Needed to break into an arcade. They end up playing a few video games, but just realizes something's off. Stops the camera recording, widens the lens enough for her to step through, finding the other her. And that is where the issue as a whole ends. Interesting. The video game aspect was from the Ace was great, and yeah, the idea that being in the Justice League is her nightmare is kind of hilarious. Moving on, though, to our last book for the moment, we've got Night Terror's Titans, #1. So, a young woman pushed her way out of floorboards. Some monsters fall, but she's able to escape from and shut the door on them. A voice tells her to envision the building she's in, as it would seem, and think of her way out. But there are also friends she has to rescue. Comes first to a door with a gear on it. Cyborg. She shows Cyborg his reflection in a mirror, and that snaps him out of kind of just being that manages to return to his more conventional form. Then next comes Donna Troy, then Starfire, then Beast Boy, and they come to a door, but no one can seem to even make it budge. And the mirror's become broken. So, the young girl takes a shard of it and cuts a hole in the wall, allowing them to leave. They find Raven. The girl is, in fact, the dream version of Raven. Explaining they're trapped in the nightmare of Titan's Tower. And that is where the issue ends. Interesting, to say the least. And like I said, all of these tie-ins have been more interesting than I expected them to be. So, props there. Good job, guys. Anyways, that is going to do it for now. As always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Huge shout out to Patreon patron Xander Lee. Thank you so much for your support. Links to my Facebook, Twitter, Mastodon, Patreon, and PayPal can be found in the description box down below. This is Rock and Roll Spock signing off saying, live long and rock hard.